The ancient Greek philosopher Protagoras proposed the thesis: of all things the measure is man, of the things that are, that they are, and of the things that are not, that they are not. The sophists believed that there is no universal truth. We started this video with this thesis to remind you that everything I say is merely my subjective opinion and does not claim to be the truth. So, where shall we begin? I believe many of you are already familiar with Vialeism and how its foundation likely stems from the philosophy of Simone Weil. Much has been said about this, but we won't dwell on it. Instead, we'll take a broader perspective. I spent a lot of time considering where to begin, and it's clear that Clancy's letter is the best starting point for analyzing the lore, Clancy himself, and perhaps even Tyler. This could be done in great detail, believe me, but I'll try to explain everything concisely and with examples. The letter clearly illustrates profound philosophical issues, touching on themes of personal freedom, the struggle against oppression, the cyclical nature of life, and the search for meaning within a repressive system. We will momentarily step back from the plot to analyze the less obvious, or perhaps obvious, aspects. Clancy, who appears here as a citizen, an escapee, and an exception, embodies philosophical ideas that can be connected to various schools of thought. The first one we'll focus on is existentialism. Existentialism is a philosophical movement that focuses on the uniqueness and freedom of the individual, as well as the significance of personal existence. It asserts that people are responsible for creating the meaning of their lives in an absurd and meaningless world. Existentialists emphasize the importance of personal choice and responsibility, highlighting experiences of solitude, anxiety, and freedom. The main figures of existentialism include Jean-Paul Sartre, Albert Camus, and Martin Heidegger. However, many often overlook the significant figure of Søren Kierkegaard, who is also a crucial figure in existentialism, and his contributions cannot be ignored. Although Kierkegaard is often regarded as a precursor to existentialism, his works laid the groundwork for many of the key ideas in this philosophical movement. It's no wonder he is called the father of existentialism. His philosophy focuses on individual experience, choice, and responsibility. Kierkegaard argued that each person must independently find the meaning of life, overcoming fear and despair to achieve true faith and authentic selfhood. He also explored the concepts of the aesthetic, ethical, and religious stages of life, emphasizing the importance of personal choice in the development of the individual. Kierkegaard holds a unique place in this narrative, so we'll discuss him in more detail another time. So, what elements of existentialism can we find here? Clancy experiences an inner struggle to define his own existence and the meaning of life in a world controlled by external forces, the bishops, religion, the system. This resonates with key existentialist ideas: authenticity of existence and being in the world. Martin Heidegger views existence as something deeper than merely being in the world. For him, the distinction between authentic and inauthentic existence is crucial. In the context of this text, the city of Dima symbolizes inauthentic existence, where people live according to norms and values that are alien to them.
I am a citizen of Dima, a circular cement city in the lower portion of an otherwise wild and green continent trench. We aren't allowed to go out there. Most haven't even seen it, but I have.
Clancy describes Dima as an enclosed space, completely separated from the natural world. Dima symbolizes inauthentic existence, where people live in artificial conditions, cut off from nature and the possibility of authentic being. Clancy, however, has already seen the outside world, indicating his awareness that something greater exists beyond Dima, an authentic existence that he aspires to attain. The absurdity of existence and the rebellion against absurdity. Camus argued that life, by its nature, is absurd, and people are confronted with the meaninglessness of existence. Similarly, Sartre wrote that both the world and human existence within it are absurd because there is no predetermined purpose or meaning, and individuals must create meaning for their own lives. Clancy recognizes the cyclical nature of his life. Despite this, he continues to fight for freedom, reflecting the concept of Sisyphean labor.
I am trapped, stuck in a cycle I've never been able to break. I want to believe this is the last time, but I don't know for sure.
These words reflect Clancy's realization of his powerlessness in the face of the cyclical and inescapable nature of his existence. He is trapped in a situation akin to Camus' absurd world, where life lacks predetermined meaning.
I am an escapee, getting better at it with every attempt, but they always find me. Well, he does. Nico. Or Blurryface is what he calls himself. He's the leader of the 9 bishops who govern the city.
Clancy is forced to confront an unstoppable force, in this case, embodied by Nico, which continually pulls him back into the trap. The inevitability and futility of his constant attempts to escape reflect the absurdity of his existence. Freedom, choice, and responsibility. This also resonates with Jean-Paul Sartre's ideas about freedom and responsibility. Sartre argued that humans are inherently free, but this freedom is also a source of anxiety because a person must take responsibility for their choices and the consequences. Clancy feels trapped in a cycle he cannot break free from, despite his efforts. This struggle for freedom and the realization of its unattainability reflects Sartre's concept of abandonment. This sense of uncertainty and the constant return to the same situation embodies the existential paradox Sartre described. Sometimes it's easier to live by the rules dictated by others and avoid taking responsibility for your own life. This is the kind of responsibility we're talking about. In such a case, you don't have to worry about the meaning of life. Everything has already been decided for you. And I think Clancy is stuck in this very cycle. He craves freedom, wants to escape, and when he manages to, he keeps coming back because staying awake is quite difficult. It's hard to give meaning to your existence, especially when the world seems absurd in this context. That's why Clancy says the cycle is strong. Right now, we're talking about philosophy and Clancy as a lyrical character, but I can't help but mention the similarity between this escape and Carl Jung's concept of confronting one's shadow. I think that's something we should discuss separately later. Clancy, despite his failures and the absurdity of the world, takes responsibility for his actions and continues to try to break free from the cycle. This can be seen as an act of defiance against the absurd.
Then Nico was betrayed. And I escaped. Again. This time, I found myself at a new place. Washed up on an island. And there, I was given a gift, thought to be extinct. I now had the same exact miraculous power they wielded from their towers.
Clancy chooses to run again, and this choice is rewarded with a strength that makes him equal to his oppressors. This episode reflects the existentialist idea that even in the harshest conditions, a person retains the freedom of choice and can change their fate through their actions. The concept of Das Man is a crucial part of Heidegger's analysis of inauthentic existence in his seminal work Being and Time, Sein und die Zeit. Das Man refers to the impersonal, they that governs a person's behavior and thinking, compelling them to follow societal norms and standards, thereby losing their individuality. This is clearly reflected in the lore, where the inhabitants of Dem live by the rules set by the bishops, without personal awareness or critical thinking.
I was recaptured, back inside. I guess word got around. I became known in Dima. The bishops did not like this, but decided to use it to their advantage. They made me entertain the people, lie to them.
After Clancy is recaptured, he becomes known in Dima, but his individuality and true nature are suppressed. The bishops use him not as a unique person, but as a tool to manipulate the masses. He is forced to entertain the people and lie to them, symbolizing how his authentic self dissolves into societal expectations, turning him into an instrument of the system that upholds Das Man. He is no longer himself, but becomes part of the mechanism that keeps the inhabitants in a state of inauthentic existence. The next thing we see in this letter is post-structuralism. Post-structuralism is a philosophical movement that emerged in the 20th century as a response to structuralism. Post-structuralists, such as Jacques Derrida and Michel Foucault, argue that there is no single stable truth or meaning. Unlike structuralism, which seeks hidden structures behind phenomena, post-structuralism asserts that meanings are constantly shifting and depend on context. It emphasizes that language and cultural norms play a significant role in shaping our perception of the world, and therefore, truth is always relative and multiple. Clancy, viewed through the lens of post-structuralism, appears as a figure whose identity and subjectivity are fluid and unstable. Jacques Derrida would help to understand this through the deconstruction of binary oppositions and the play of signs, while Michel Foucault would analyze the mechanisms of power and discipline that shape and constrain this character within a specific system. We know that the power of the bishops is manifested through the mechanism of controlling both body and mind, which echoes Foucault's concept of biopower control over people's bodies through social institutions and practices. Bishops not only physically restrain people, but also control their consciousness through religious ideology, which promotes self-destruction as a path to heaven. This aligns with Foucault's idea that power is exercised through technologies of the self, where individuals become active participants in their own subjugation. Clancy's struggle with the system is tied to the question of identity. He attempts to find himself in a world where personality is controlled and suppressed by power. This reflects Foucault's influence as he explored how power shapes and controls identities.
I am a citizen. I am an escapee. And I am an exception to the rule.
Clancy becomes aware of his subjectivity and identity in relation to other citizens of Dima. However, his subjectivity is not static, but is in a constant state of becoming and change, reflecting Foucault's idea that the subject is not a fixed entity, but is constructed through various discourses and practices of power. Clancy attempts to escape control, but each time he is pulled back into the system of power, indicating its pervasive nature. This was a quick analysis that introduced you to two philosophical movements and their most notable figures. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I'm not claiming to have the ultimate truth. I don't know if Tyler was actually influenced by these philosophical ideas or not. Maybe I just made these connections myself, linking things that weren't originally related. Either way, it's a helpful example to give you a basic understanding of existentialism and post-structuralism. I hope I explained everything clearly and that you learned something new. See you in the next video.